Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McKusick, and we're having a special short today talking about the Alohi Gilman trade. We're 3 games in now. Gilman has done some good things, including the big strip in the last game. And joining us to talk about it is Connor Burke. Connor, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you, Ken?
Life's good. Connor, you used to be at Ebony Bird for a while, or what did you do? What did you do there?
That's right. When I was in actually my senior year of high school, I wrote about a year for Ebony Bird, and then once college started, I kind of drifted out of that. But still, definitely a huge Ravens fans. Keep up with it pretty consistently. So,
All right. All right. So Alohi Gilman acquired now 3 weeks ago in the trade for Adafe Owe. Owe is going crazy with the Chargers since then, with I think 4 sacks in 4 games. Ravens also picked up a 5th-round pick and give back a 7th-round pick in 2027. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing from Gilman's new role here.
yeah. Well, Gilman obviously was acquired to be, that back end guy for Kyle Hamilton to be able to move back into the role that he's kind of fit to be, and that's kind of the jack of all trades safety. But Gilman for sure was brought to be that back end safety, and he's done a really good job of being in the right position. I think pretty consistently. Usually, he seems like a pretty cerebral player. He seems like he's in the right place 90% of the time, I would say. But he does have some athletic limitations, I would say, maybe, and then some limitations as a tackler as well. But the most important thing is that it's allowed Kyle Hamilton to be that, really honestly, the defensive player of the year, in my opinion, the way that he's playing right now. It allows him to be that jack of all trade safety and be closer to the line of scrimmage and offer so many things there.
No doubt about it. From Hamilton, from the perspective of what Hamilton's been able to provide from the defense, has been a big win in terms of that. I do have issues with the Ravens not filling this position to start the year, because I don't think a safety of Gilman's quality is that hard to find or acquire. And obviously they had Ardarius Washington last year. That was a terrific. He did a terrific job of moving around, and honestly, in some ways, a similar slot corner / strong safety to what Hamilton has been. But Gilman, I think, more of a natural back end player. You mentioned the tackling briefly. Let's talk about Gilman first before we get back to Hamilton a little bit later. Can the Ravens live with this level of tackling so far that we see?
I think so. I think they can live with it. I don't think it's good. I think that especially the Dolphins game, it really kind of showed how poor of a tackler he is and how poor he is in run defense. I was, like for example, there was a play in the first quarter. I believe it was their 3rd drive of the game. It was after the strip sack or after the strip fumble that Gilman got, and A-Chain had a pretty big run, and Gilman took one of the more poor angles I've seen from a safety to tackle A-Chain. And I get, A-Chain's a really explosive player, but that was pretty poor tackling from Gilman. And there was a lot of examples of that pretty much throughout that game. So that definitely reared its ugly head. But can they live with it? I think so, because of what it's done for Hamilton, and what it's done for just the run defense, and also being able to rush the passer in creative ways as well.
Okay, so the Ravens actually have a history of this, because Ardarius Washington last year, this was probably his weakness. Before that, the year before in 23, Geno Stone, tackling definitely his weakness, and they put up with it. In both cases, kind of for turnovers and to fix a defense that was really broken without that. They had other problems with Eddie Jackson and Marcus Williams back there as well. So I think you're right that they can live with it. It is not a good thing. They had four missed tackles in the last game, and I think it would have been 5. He kind of overran the play on which he got the strip. Then Buchanan made the tackle, or was in the process of making the tackle, and then he came back and made the strip, and they didn't charge a missed tackle on PFF for it anyway. And he gave up about 42 to 45 yards, as I make it, in terms of yards after missed tackles, which is an awful lot. I mean, that's an awful lot for one game. You think that's, 12% or something, or 13% of the total yards they got in the game. But then when you exchange that with a turnover, then I'm making that deal every time. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, for it, as much yards as he has lost, and you said, around 40 to 42 yards, something like that, that he lost. I think we also gain a lot back by being able to move Hamilton closer to the line of scrimmage. I think that we also really underrate, and I'm sure you don't, but a lot of people don't really don't really see how good Kyle Hamilton is in the run defense. So I think we gain a lot of yards back by having Hamilton in that role.
it'd be really hard to gain that yardage back. You could gain the effectiveness back. You could win on variance by getting some negative plays, one that can really help you. But it'd be really hard to gain back 40 plus yards of missed tackles.
Yeah.
Now, that said, Hamilton's been great, and I'm in agreement with you that he's one of the best defensive players in the league, playing up at the line of scrimmage like he is. Shuts down the screens to the strong side, and you get a better pass rusher, a better run defender. He's no problem just angling into the backfield directly. That's something we saw. A lot of people don't remember this, but we saw that a lot from Ed Reed in his career, that he would he had a set way of coming up to the line of scrimmage and anticipating when the snap was going to occur, and then rushing off the edge against the run, being very effective against it. But Ed would look for little tip-offs from the opposing quarterback and the opposing formation and whatnot to be fairly certain that things were going to be a run play, and then get in there and disrupt it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you just I realize that the play ended up being a positive play for the Dolphins, but if you just go back and look at the reverse play, it was a weird play, but Hamilton plays it perfectly. They try to pull the center, and he just with those huge arms just stonewalls them, and he did exactly what he was supposed to do. It should have been an 8-yard loss, but we had some over pursuit in the backside. So, and it's just plays like that has really been able to open up Kyle Hamilton's game and turn him into that game-changing safety that we know and love.
Yeah, that sort of play, people would look at that and they'd say, well, a -8. Well, what about the +8 yards somebody gives up? The -8 tagged or paired with another +8, not necessarily in the same series, obviously, that might not work. But if you have those two and you're throwing them into the general mix of plays, that's usually a good deal for the defense. They're gonna end up having a good chance to get the other team off the field one more time with the -8 play, rolled into there. That didn't occur, and then I wasn't really shocked that the back end over pursued the play or wasn't in position to stop the play. I was kind of disappointed that Urban and Jones overran the play.
Right, the front side.
Yeah. So anyway, they committed to it. Okay, let's talk maybe about the trade of Odafe Oweh while we're at it. So I mean, I think we still need to see more from Gilman. I mean, there's obviously been pluses and minuses so far. One thing that'll be interesting, maybe we can talk about this for just a second, is do you see Alohi Gilman as somebody they re-signed for 26?
I honestly don't. I'm curious to see what happens with Ardarius Washington, see if he comes back and what role that would be if he comes back. But I don't think Gilman's a guy that they want to resign. Maybe if it's a vet min deal type of deal for the Ravens, but I don't think that he's. I don't think we've seen enough of him or from him to re-sign him. So I don't think that Gilman ends up being back with the Ravens.
And he's not at a vet min point in his career. He's been too good, frankly, for that. So he'll be signed somewhere else. 3 years, $14 million. 3 years, $9 million. Somewhere in there, but it won't be 1 year, $1.35 million. I can tell you that. I mean, I guess he could fall apart, but they traded Odafe Oweh, a polarizing figure here in Baltimore. What's your take on him leaving the Ravens?
Well, when the trade initially came out, a lot of people reacted as the Ravens were selling. I never really saw it that way. I really saw it as a trade-off, as we haven't really got from a production standpoint. And I realized that, Oweh has been pretty good in terms of creating pressure. But especially this year for the Ravens, he was not finishing those pressures. Now, obviously, with the Chargers, he has done an excellent job of finishing those pressures. But I saw it as a trade-off of you know, we haven't got the production that the results that we wanted to from Oweh. And this move could kind of transcend the defense because it allows Kyle Hamilton to be in that role. And so I really saw it as just, hey, let's kind of eat it. It hasn't worked out. We're not going to re-sign him. And let's get Kyle Hamilton back in the role that is going to kind of transcend the defense into more of a, formidable force.
Really terrible timing, obviously, on the trade. It's the week before Tavius Robinson gets hurt, and Tavius had the most snaps by far of any of their front five defenders, all defensive linemen or edges. And I think he had something like 70 more snaps, 80 more snaps than Travis Jones had at that point. And not only that, but Tavius Robinson had given the Ravens a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pass rush juice. And Oweh had given the Ravens a fair number of pressures, not a lot of finishes, as you mentioned. Last year was a great finishing year for him with lower pressures. This year was higher pressures, but a lousy finish rate. So it's always something, but I had multiple problems with it in terms of, so I'm just going to lay some of these out for you. I don't think you let your best pass rusher go when it's your biggest weakness. So I did see it as more of a sell move than you did. Now, it had combinations of buy and sell in there, like a lot of good moves do. We've seen what the Orioles have done in the last couple of trade deadlines. Sometimes they act as a seller and a buyer at the same time. And there were elements of that it had that. I didn't think it was a lot. I don't think it was a good price for Oweh. I think that pass rushers will typically end up being a fourth round compensatory pick when there's somebody like Oweh. I would think would be what they'd be looking at. They got a fifth. That's a year deferred. The fourth versus a fifth is a year deferred because they got a 26 pick. But I didn't think what they got back was all that exciting in terms of Gilman. Obviously, they got some cap space out of it. That was something. But the other thing, if you want me to lay one more thing out there, is that I think they could have gotten more for Oweh at the trade deadline. And they didn't really try and push that. And now we see the pass rate. I mean, Draymond Jones is going for a fourth round pick. I think Oweh nabs at least that in terms of what he would have gone for in the last day or two. Now, the Ravens wouldn't have traded him, but I think that's what he would have gone for.
I think that's totally fair. I didn't love the return either. I thought that for what Oweh is, the type of talent that he is, even though he wasn't having a great year production-wise this year in terms of results, I think that teams around the league still valued him enough to give up. You possibly could have got a late third rounder from a team that was competing and needed a pass rusher. So I do agree. I didn't love the return, but I think the Ravens just saw it as an investment into hey, defense. What we're doing right now is not working at all. Mm-hmm. And so, in order for the defense to be what it needs to be, Kyle Hamilton has to be that guy that is sort of a this jack of all trades and closer to the line of scrimmage, and that's how we're going to have to generate pressure, and that's how we're going to have to defend the run.
And you're probably right that there wasn't an easy way at this exact point in mid-season to acquire a good safety. So you got a slight plus safety in Gilman and a guy who can probably keep you out of trouble for the most part, and Kyle Hamilton becomes a better player is a positive thing. I'm a potential star player in Oweh, and one thing that I go back to is that Oweh had played almost exclusively as a pass rusher this season. So it's not a case of the coaches are making the job too complicated for him. I'm trying to figure out why it didn't work for him in Baltimore, but it's not really easy to see. I mean, obviously Oweh has had lapses in production before, including his final year at Penn State, where he didn't get after the quarterback very effectively. But I'm not sure exactly where to place the blame for this. The Ravens have a top flight pass rush coach. They have, perfectly reasonable situational pass rush role for Oweh. They didn't ask him to play the run, so he should have been tired. I'm trying to figure out what went wrong.
Yeah, I don't know either, because he's such a great talent. And obviously he's had the production in Los Angeles. You almost wonder if I feel like sometimes it's just a matter of luck. I mean, honestly, sometimes you create pressure and you don't get the sack, I mean, like Travis Jones is kind of the guy for that, creating pressures all the time, and he didn't always finish it, but he kind of creates the pressure for other people. I feel like that's how Owe had such a successful year last year. Was Matabike and Travis Jones were creating so much pressure for him, and he was just able to kind of clean that up. So I feel like sometimes sacks and pressure and turnovers, things like that, those are sometimes a lot of luck that's involved.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't disagree with that for sure. Let's end it here with what you think the Gilman trade. How would you grade it so far? And you can grade it for whatever reason, for whatever way you want, in terms of Gilman or in terms of its effect on the Ravens, whatever, however you think is appropriate.
Sure, I'd give it like a B minus. I'd say that's about where. I mean, you can't argue with the results so far. I do think that the results have a little bit to do with a decrease in the level of competition. Like,
Yeah.
they're not exactly Bears are a perfectly good team, but they're definitely not the Detroit Lions or the Chiefs or the Bills. So I think that had something to do with the poor defensive play earlier in the year. But the results have been good, and I love seeing Kyle Hamilton be the guy that he is right now. And I really do think that transcends the defense, allowing him to do all the things that he can do closer to the line of scrimmage, create pressure in different ways, defend the run. And Gilman honestly has been a pretty solid player for most of the time. I think that he had a really, really bad game in run defense against Miami, but then he kind of made up for it with that. I mean, that fumble changed the game completely, and never really looked back after that. So you take the good with the bad for sure.
Yeah. All right. I'm right about the same place. B minus, C plus. It's not so much the fact that they had to get Gilman. It's that they could have maybe solved it another way by having a different safety. But I'll say this: I don't think there's another solution for the Ravens right now other than having Kyle Hamilton in the slot. I just don't. Right now, their run defensive core is completely decimated by injuries and trades. The combination of the two things. In terms of who they have on the edge, they've had to move Brent Urban out in this uncovered role, which works with Hamilton or with Buchanan maybe as a smaller player on the edge. But you can't really play that as what you show the offense on every single snap either. So I'd like for the Ravens to maybe find another solution. Draymond Jones should really help. He's a guy who he's mostly needed for pass rush by the Ravens, but he also hopefully can be a little bit of a stabilizer from a run defensive standpoint, even though it's not a tremendous strength of his. Hopefully that's something he could do.
Yeah, I really hope it benefits. I hope it benefits Mike Green a little bit now that we have another outside linebacker. Maybe get him off the field a little bit because he's played a lot. And maybe he's the early down guy and Mike Green comes for pass rush situations. But I really hope that ends up helping him a lot too.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely needed. Mike Green has not had a easy developmental rookie year, and I think what's going on for him will probably pay dividends eventually. But I don't think a trial by fire for a rookie pass rusher who probably ought to be a situational guy is the ideal way to get him started in the NFL. And I think hopefully Tavius Robinson did perfectly fine. He had a 30% trial by fire. Mike Green's played over I think he's played over 60% of snaps. It might be 57, but it's just an extraordinary number for a rookie to play at outside linebacker. And the Ravens in their need have had to go to that. And hopefully it's something that won't hold him back in 26. All right, Connor, a pleasure having you on the show. Tell folks where they can talk football with you online.
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter, Connor_Brooks14. I love talking football with people. I'm not as active as I used to be on Twitter, but I still see it all the time. I just don't tweet as much. Yeah.
All right. Other folks out there, thanks for listening as always. Appreciate all the ideas that have come in over the bye week, the mini bye week, I'll call it, in terms of shorts and whatnot. We always have time for about one per week. Keep hitting me up with them if you want to. And as always, mention this podcast to one person who maybe doesn't know about it so far. Connor, thanks a lot for joining me. And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study. All right, that's